Case number 6, John and Beth Jenkin, Block 38, Lot 62, 2833 Asbury Avenue, Ocean R2 Zone, is also carried to our meeting of 11/2/2017. There will be renotice on that application. Brings us to resolutions. There's one resolution that's been posted on the board unless someone needs it read in full. We will offer it by title only. Mark and Carrie Sahaki, Block 140, Lot 50, 1202 Evergreen Avenue, Ocean, bulk variance approval. I'll offer it. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Worrell, please call the roll.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Levine? Yes. Samantha?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes. Brings us to the first case tonight. It's a new case, Brenda Cabasso, Block 58, Lot 10, 449 Crosby Avenue, in a Ideal Park in an R2 zone. This is an application to install a generator and to keep an existing sports court, pool equipment, pool surround, 4 AC condensers and window wells in this corner lot with variances for front yard setback under minimum pool equipment, front yard setback under minimum AC condensers, front yard setback under minimum sports court, front yard setback under minimum pool surround, front yard setback under minimum window wells, rear yard setback under minimum pool surround, side yard setback under minimum sports court, side yard setback under minimum generator. And I understand, Mr. Slavy, there's also an additional variance for a fence that's, I'm not sure if it's been noticed for that, but
No, in your front yard, right? It's a fence in the front yard, it hasn't been noticed, there's sufficient language in the notice that would permit the board to hear that application and make a determination on that. And I reviewed all of the service with regard to this application, other than not mentioning the fence, but covered under the notice, everything else is in order, jurisdiction is appropriate.
thank you. Attorney for the applicant, Jennifer S. Krimko. Good evening, Ms. Krimko.
Good evening, Mr. Good. You made it sound a lot worse than it is when you read that all into the record.
I just read it, you know? Ron, could you mark the packet B1 with tonight's date? And we'll start with, we could start with the Mr. Higgins report.
Okay, and I'll summarize rather than read it. The lot has, it's a corner lot, it has 193 feet of frontage on Crosby Avenue and 136 feet of frontage on Monmouth Road. It has a residence, a pool, a sports court, a driveway, and other site amenities, including fencing. Warren went over the variances. 50 feet is required for the front yard setback. The pool equipment is at 45.4 from Monmouth Road. The AC condensers are at 46.6 from Monmouth Road. The sports court is 31 feet from Crosby. The pool deck is 45.4 feet from Monmouth Road, and the window wells are 46 feet from Monmouth Road. They're all fairly close.
The deck and the fencing will be also 45
Yeah, the fencing, that's, yeah, that's. Right.
When you say
Yeah, I
close,
said the pool deck's 45.4.
when you say close, you mean close to the required?
Yeah, close to the required, yes, that's right, close to the required. About an average about 5 feet, with the exception of the sports court, which is quite a bit closer. Then there's the variance for the fence in the front yard along Monmouth Road, which is right at the edge of the pool deck, and I'm assuming that's a 6-foot high fence?
It is, and you'll,
Okay.
that was an existing fence, and you had testimony
Okay.
with that regard.
And then the pool deck is 7.4 feet from the rear yard, 10 feet is required. The sports court is 10 feet, is required to be 10 feet from the side yard, and it's 4.6 feet exists. And the generator that's being proposed, 10 feet is required from the side yard, and it's actually at 9.2 feet. This variances don't meet the C1 hardship criteria, so they'd have to justify them under C2. In terms of impact, I think with the pool equipment, the condensers, they're plainly visible from Monmouth Road. They should be screened in some form. Bill has a suggestion on that. I'll let him deal with that. The sports court, while it is much closer to Crosby than would be permitted, because of the topography, if you stand on Crosby, you can barely see the sports court. If it were to be screened, you wouldn't see it at all. So that's something you might want to consider after they give their arguments for the granting of the variance. With regard to the east side of the court, adjacent to the adjacent property, there's very heavy vegetation there, so again, it wouldn't be seen from the adjacent property. The window wells in the pool deck are not readily visible from Monmouth Road. The The pool deck is screened at the rear by existing vegetation, very heavy, so you need some testimony on that so you can make a decision. And with regard to the generator, the magnitude of the variance, in my opinion, is minimal, but there should be provide testimony why it can't be moved to 10 feet to the west to conform. It's on the east side of the property, and actually looks like it could be moved a few feet to make it conform. And again, the fence, I think Bill has a suggestion on the fence also.
Okay. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Mr. Chairman, I have a report dated September 28th, and I will also summarize all the important stuff is in my paragraph 3, which has a couple of subparagraphs. This is a brand-new home, so it was recently constructed. I believe there was a plot plan possibly before the planning board, although I remember discussing a plot plan with the builder at some point. It was, in any event, there's just no real reason why everything couldn't have been made to conform. Having said that, I don't want to take an unusually hard line, but I didn't think that any of the mechanical stuff should be visible from a public street. So my thought was really simple. They're going to need a variance for their fence because of the shape of the lot and how it was installed. Why not move the fence forward of the mechanical equipment, grant them the variance to have the 6-foot fence in the front yard, put some evergreens along to kind of soften it, and it accomplishes everything, and she already has a fence except for the little bit necessary to just come past a couple of things that are along the side of the house, and it just makes it fairly simple. With regarding the sports court, I'm not real empathetic about that. Deal Park has a major flooding problem. We have somewhere between 13 and 18 homes, the properties upon which get flooded. I mean, really flooded, and there is no real solution. So I'm taking the position in Deal Park on anything that any impervious cover that's either can't be put in a conforming spot or exceeds the coverage limits, which this doesn't, but it's in the front yard, just shouldn't be there, because there's no other way to cure this problem short of, I don't know how to cure the problem, frankly.
Short of having their own detention basin on their...
Well, if that's what it takes, then that's fine, but that's a whole design. I'm fine with that if that's how you want to approach it.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Krimko.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As you know, Jennifer Krimko on behalf of the applicant. And just a couple of brief comments in advance. Many of you have seen me appear before here monthly for years and years. This is going to be a little bit different because rather than there being a real engineering or legal argument here, it's a circumstantial argument that you're going to hear from the homeowner as to how we got here. Bill is right that with proper planning, these items could have been located in a more conforming location or an entirely conforming location. As you're going to hear through testimony from Mrs. Cabasso, this was all done unbeknownst to her. The builder did submit a plot plan. It was conforming. It needed no relief. It did not show any of these mechanicals. He then proceeded to install the mechanicals without the benefit of an approval for doing it, and it was only after they went for a CO inspection that it was discovered that they needed variance relief. So this wasn't done intentionally to flout the regulations. This was a happenstance that Mrs. Cabasso wasn't aware of until it was already in. And we'll go through all of that testimony. What I would like to do is I assume that the plans that were submitted are part of the board's packet that was moved in as B1, so I don't have to move them in again.
We have a reduced copy of the
All right, well,
plot plan
I'll
of
move it in for
sheet
reference.
1 of...
Okay, all right, so it's in there, but I'll just move it in for reference. So A1 will be the variance plan, and it's dated 5/12/17. That was the one that was submitted on May 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay. A2 you don't have. In Jim's letter, there was a request about the character of the existing neighborhood. It's 2 photos that I downloaded from Google Earth. I'll explain what they are. It's a packet of 2. That'll be A2.
We have
Different ones. Yeah, the pictures that I submitted were of the subject house because that was requested by the zoning officer. So those are already part of the record. I'd like to have Mrs. Cabasso sworn in, I assume in firm as opposed to swear.
Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
That's right, John.
State your name and address, please.
Brenda Cabasso.
But you have to speak into the microphone. This is being
Sorry.
audio
Brenda
and videotaped.
Cabasso.
Go ahead.
And Ms. Passo, you and your husband own the property that is subject to the application here
Yes.
tonight.
Yes.
You heard me give a brief summary. What I'd like to do is walk through it point by point. And I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you can just answer yes or no, or if there's a more detailed answer. When did you and your husband purchase the subject property? Approximately what year?
I don't know how many years, about, I don't know, 5 years ago?
Okay.
Something like that.
And at the time, was there an existing structure on the property?
Yes,
Okay, and you demolished that structure and you hired a builder and got permits to put up a modular home,
Yes.
correct? And as far as you understood, every permit was applied for, paid for, and received for all of the construction.
yes,
At the time when you first contacted me, you had advised that you were having trouble getting a certificate of occupancy and you got a violation notice and you needed help navigating through that, is that correct?
yes,
And one of the issues was, well, one of the major issues was that there were, and I'm pointing at A1, which is in evidence, on the west side of the house, there were air conditioning units and other facilities that were installed that were outside of the 50-foot setback mark.
yes, correct.
Okay. And at the time that they were installed, you didn't know that they were non-conforming. You assumed they were just put in because the builder had the authority to do it?
Yes,
Okay. When you bought the house, was there an existing pool
yes.
and pool deck?
Yes,
Did you change the pool or the pool deck?
no,
Okay, so it's always been there since you purchased the house
Yes.
5+ years ago. So whatever non-conformities are there relating to the pool, they were there when you bought it.
yes,
At the time you purchased the property, was there a 6-foot fence around the pool in the location where it is? Okay, and is it my understanding that the contractor in the process of construction merely replaced an existing 6-foot fence with the fence that's there today?
yes,
At the time it was done, were you aware that it was in violation or you needed any special permits?
no,
Okay. With regard to what's being called the asphalt court, when you purchased the house, what was there in that location?
a basketball court.
Okay. And when you went through the construction, you merely reconstructed it, correct?
Yes,
Did you know at the time that you authorized the builder to reconstruct it, that once you removed it because it was non-conforming, you weren't allowed to put it back in the same location?
no,
So at the time you did it, you thought you were doing everything according to the code, and it was only when this issue came up that you knew you had a problem?
exactly.
Okay, now the generator's what's new here.
Jennifer, she's got to speak
Oh,
up.
you gotta
I'll
s-
never
oh, I'm
pick this
sorry.
up on a recording.
I'm sorry.
The generator is what's new here as part of the application. You recognize that it's supposed to be 10 feet from the property line and you have it at 9.2, is that correct?
Yes,
Why don't you want to put it at 10 feet?
well, we thought it would be better to be tucked behind the shed so it wouldn't be visible to the street.
So you think that it's a better alternative to have it blocked from the street behind the shed than have the 0.8, the 3/4 of a foot closer to your neighbor?
Right,
Okay. So you could move it if the board required you to, it would just not be tucked behind the shed anymore.
right,
Now, there were reports that were read into the record by the board engineer and the board planner with suggestions with extending the fence so it encloses the mechanicals that are in the front yard and then adding some landscaping on the side to soften it. Would you be amenable to doing that?
yeah,
Okay, and you.
Monmouth Roadside?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Monmouth Roadside. And there was a recommendation that if the board were to grant the approval for the asphalt court, that there be, while it's not really visible, that perhaps you add some shrubs there as well, so it
that's
wouldn't
not a
be visible.
problem.
Let's just clarify, Jennifer, with regard to relocating the fence and screening the
We're not
mechanicals.
relocating, adding the fence.
Adding the fence.
Yeah, because
You have to relocate.
You
You
would- you have to,
gotta pull it.
unless you're gonna have two
We would
fences.
we would just add to that fence.
Okay, so just
Okay,
put a
yeah.
box in the.
Yes.
You're gonna
Just
box
make
them
sure
in
that
and
when
leave
you
the
do it,
fence
you
the
have
way it
enough
is?
breathing room
We
around
And
it.
then the other issue is then you would run it along the side of the house to enclose the air conditioning units also.
Correct,
Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
okay.
I mean, whatever fence you think is
Right.
appropriate.
We could either do we could, first of all, there, I think.
Jennifer, you have to speak into the microphone, so
Never
'cause
did that.
they'll never hear you on TV land.
With regard to that, I mean, we could match it with the 6-foot fence, so it looks uniform.
Or you
but
could step it
also-
down to a 4
right,
with the
you
same
could do a-
style.
Yeah.
You could do a 4 in the same style and
Yeah.
not need a variance for it.
I would say the
Well-
board let the homeowner do what she decides she wants to do. If it requires a 6 foot, a variance of a 6 foot, give it to her. She wants to go for the 4 foot, which conforms fine. But let her, don't make her
It's
make
a-
a decision now until she
No,
thinks
it's a
it's
solid
true.
fence.
Yeah.
4 foot wouldn't conform, that has to be 3 foot.
Why? In the front
What?
yard?
Yeah, it's a 4 foot, you could have a 4 foot open fence in the front yard. Unless I'm
Yeah, you're
mistaken,
right.
but it's a
Okay.
3 foot
Go.
solid fence,
Okay.
yeah.
But I'm saying it doesn't matter if it's, I'll do whatever they,
Well,
if
she can
they
get a
want to
variance for the
open
4. I
or.
mean, what's the
Yeah,
difference?
yeah,
If it's,
Mhm.
let her decide what
It's-
she wants,
yeah.
we'll give it
I
to
just,
her.
just for the record, I want that to be clear.
Okay.
You speak into the microphone, so I can't
So
hear
we
you on
would-
TV land.
If the board thinks a fence is a better screen than just landscaping, we would agree to enclose it with a fence and propose landscaping to soften it. And obviously, we would submit a plan showing all of that, subject to the board planner's review and approval. I would ask for the variance for the 6 feet, so we wouldn't have to come back. And if we decide to go lower, then
Yeah.
that's no harm, no foul.
So
Makes
you're
sense.
offering a second 6 foot fence?
Yes,
You're leaving the one that's there.
we're not touching the one
It's
that's
variance.
correct.
Or pre-existing, okay.
Right.
And then you're gonna get another 6 foot fence from the house all the way back?
Yes, it would.
Parallel to Monmouth Road?
Yeah, it would
Yes.
have to enclose the pool equipment. We'll submit a plan that shows it, but it will be an additional 6 foot fence or lower that will enclose all of the equipment that's within the front yard, and will include, some of the air conditioning units are only partially, we'll include all of it. We'll just enclose all of it.
Maybe a hint what that variance is gonna be, how far back?
Oh, the variance, it'll be about 40 feet. I mean, even further, maybe,
Yeah, maybe 38 feet.
no.
I don't know what the machines need.
Yeah. that's,
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so about 35 to 38 feet, depending on. So let's say 35. And I think what's important here, and I don't have a scale, but if you look at where the property line ends and where the curb actually is, you're picking up a minimum of another 15 plus feet in distance. So I mean, you're actually 50 feet plus away from the street as you're going by the street. While it's measured to the property line, here you have the benefit of having a more significant right-of-way to mitigate the impact of these. And with regard to the pool, it's surrounded completely by a fence, so while the existing patio does require relief, we didn't put it in, and there is no impact because it's completely blocked. Also, some of the things that are on the plan that were called out in earlier reviews, the chain link fence was put in by a permit in the same location. It's in the right of way. We're going to relocate it out of there as shown on the plan. And in order to avoid a change of grade greater than 2 feet, there's a little bit of a wall on the corner of the house. And that's really it.
Do you want the wall or you want the variance for the change of grade? It's any and all other. I mean, what makes more sense?
I'll defer that to you.
Well, there's not enough information on here to tell. I didn't look at that because depends on, I mean, you want the house to look nice when you're all said and done, and a wall if you don't need it.
Right.
It's up to you.
The top of wall is at 55.4. The grade next to it is at
54 too?
4.2, so it's gonna be, you're not even gonna see it.
It's like a curb.
Right, correct.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, we'll just leave it.
And just one other thing, while it's really not germane to the variances, if you do put a second fence, that area between the fences is going to be very difficult to maintain, so give consideration to what kind of surface you want to put out there.
Maybe
Because
pe-
grass isn't going to work.
Right, so maybe pebbles.
Yeah,
or
maybe,
gravel,
something.
nice gravel surface.
Nice gravel surface might work.
No, that's
true.
a good idea. I think I hit everything that was in there. I don't know if the board has any questions for Mrs. Cavasso. Oh, and
I just have a question, Mrs. Cabasso. I didn't understand you, Mrs. Cabasso. What was at the asphalt court before you put that there? What was the existing?
It was a basketball court.
It was a basketball court. Okay.
it was just replaced as
It was just
The
replaced.
same size as,
same size.
I think so.
She can't get a CO. Is there a CO problem?
There's a temporary CO right now.
Okay.
I have a question related to that. Just as far as maybe for the professional, is there any way to mitigate the water issue that's short of, drastically?
Can I address
Or
that,
what?
Mr. Malta?
Yeah.
I forgot to put this in. I reached out to the engineer who prepared the plan before the hearing, because when I saw Bill's letter, I wanted to make sure that we weren't over, and I just wanted to put onto the record, the permitted building coverage there is 22%. We're at a building coverage of 15.8, so we're significantly under for the building. And more importantly, the lot coverage permitted there is 75%. We are down at 45.6%, so we're significantly under. I understand.
Well, let me put that on the record then too, because that argument of you're making is great, but 9/10 of the properties that are being developed in Deal Park are in conformance with the ordinance and they're choking on water. So they don't come before the board, but I just want that on the record also. I'm fine
No,
with it.
and I get, and Bill knows, I mean, several of my clients have come
Does
from
this house have a basement?
Yeah.
How about, you must have downspouts and leaders, right? Can we put a dry well in to catch one of the leaders? I mean, that's a quarter of the roof probably,
I don't know
and
what
would
that
more
is.
than mitigate
Yes.
the court.
The answer is yes. if
But
you
put
have
it down by the
yes.
street.
Yes, we would be happy to put a dry well in
Down
to
by the
catch the
street.
leaders.
So that if it overflowed, it goes to the gutter, and if
Okay.
it won't be near your basement, so you shouldn't have an issue with.
Okay,
If
sounds
it doesn't
good.
exist, we will put one in,
So we wanna put a dry well to catch,
the roof leaders.
Yeah. Or at least one of them. I mean, we're not gonna tear up this whole place to put pipes all around us if it's not there. That's crazy.
Okay.
But
Great.
Oh, and I also want to add one thing I didn't remember that Mrs. Cabasa reminded me. They actually took out a pavement driveway and put in pavers. I know that as you drive over it, it becomes less and less pervious, but certainly is a step better than what was there before. Just for the record. Let it go, though.
I am. I'd say a word.
Bill, a question about the the generator. I know it's not that far off of what's permitted. Is there any noise concerns with the generator because there's a neighbor next door?
Yeah, I would think that there may be. However, I'm finding that after Superstorm Sandy, a lot of people have put in generators, both in this town and other towns, and they all kick on at the same time. So
Would the foot make
I
a
don't know that
difference?
the 8/10 of a foot that she needs
That's
to
what I-
conform, which is about 10 inches, is going to make much difference in terms of the noise. I would think that if the board is not unhappy with the small magnitude of the variance,
It's so small
the
there.
cost of doing that, I mean, she's volunteered to put up fence to help screen some landscaping, a dry well. There's no point in going crazy with costs that don't accomplish much.
Why am I
8/10 of a
asking?
foot is not going to make a different sound.
Okay, that's, thank you.
I'm sure the neighbor's generator is going to kick on when the power goes off at the same time as Mrs. Cabasso's kicks on.
I thought isn't there a self-testing every week or month or something?
Yeah, but I mean, it's
Okay,
usually during the
kick-
day, isn't it?
It's
A
15
couple of minutes
minutes.
during the day. It's,
don't have one,
it's
so
no
I don't
worse
know.
than the lawnmowers. You know what I mean? You listen to the guys at the lawn guys, and they make a ton of noise. That's what
Okay,
you hear all
well,
day.
Just asking.
And if you can hear it when the power goes off, you know your neighbor's got power, so you just take a little cord and you walk over to their house and say, can
course.
I hook up?
Run the extension cord, absolutely. What else, Jennifer?
And just by way of, for the character of the neighborhood, because I know our obligation is to show that we're not going to be a detriment. On the photo packet I gave you, the first shot is looking west from Crosby, and as you can see, that property has a solid row of hedges that are 6 feet, probably even a little bit more. And then the second one is looking down Monmouth Road, and as many of you have lived here probably as long as me and not longer, many of the properties along Monmouth Road do have 5 or 6 foot solid fences much closer to the property line for privacy and safety because of how busy Monmouth Road is. So certainly what we're doing, being set back 40 plus feet, is going to be within character of that corridor, that area of Monmouth Road. That's why we submitted these pictures.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Good.
Guys have anything else? Anybody from the board have anything to say? No? Anyone from the public here to be heard? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion, close the public hearing.
they're in there, right? She's living there.
Yeah.
I think we should need to see the plan to incorporate it into the resolution. I mean, it's an approximate 35 foot.
I'm okay with that.
I don't like giving approximate 35
Okay,
foot variances.
so we'll close the hearing, we'll just,
Well, we can carry it to the next meeting, I
Carry
can
it.
make the following suggestion, okay? If she submits the plan, I'll bring a resolution. But I mean, we'll have something to, you know, with dimensions
Yep. And a reference to.
and a reference to.
I
and
think that's a good idea.
Like, because now you're gonna give me an approximate 35 foot, and you don't know if you want a 4-foot fence or a 6-foot fence. You'll have all that. I
Okay,
mean, we're not
Just
holding it up.
don't, no, I know, and just don't get mad at me if I can't get Chet to do it in time for the next meeting. It may be the following meeting.
Okay.
I'm gonna do my best.
But I just, there's a little too much up in the air to condition the variance.
that's fine. Okay, so we'll close the public hearing for the purposes to carry it to our meeting of November 2nd,
Yes. That's my suggestion.
27th. Good suggestion.
With no further notice, Mr. Good?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms.
Obviously, if
Kremko,
you
can
can't make
they,
the November 2nd, you'll ask for an adjournment, and we'll extend the time until the
yeah,
December.
and also they could, in that amount of time, adjust if she needs the dry well.
Well, we're gonna do it anyway. We agreed to it,
Mhm.
whether she needs it or not.
Oh,
And-
she wasn't sure if she had one, as I
Oh,
understood it.
you are correct.
And
You're
we
a
wanna
step ahead of
know-
me.
And I guess you wanna throw a little landscaping information on there too, right? You're gonna screen the fence?
Yeah, yeah, we did. We actually did put some landscaping in already. We put in a bunch of skip laurels, so, you know, we'll submit that and.
Yeah, I would just, it's just a little too many, you know, she's not,
Agreed.
so as long as it's not, obviously it's not holding up, she lives there.
Right.
For the temporary CO and, we
Okay.
can get that more formalized. And we can, if it's available prior to the meeting, we'll do a resolution. If it's not, you
Okay,
know, I don't think it's holding anything up.
Nope.
I would
great.
prefer that.
Ow, thank you.
See you next month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next application is case number 3, John and Valerie Huhey, sorry. Block 3, lot 60, 39 Peachtree Road, Oakhurst, in an R5 zone. This is an application to remove and replace an existing driveway, walkway, and sidewalk with variances for driveway width of 23 feet where 20 feet is permitted in the front yard and construction in the floodplain. Come on down. Could you raise your right hand, please? You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Could you just give us your name and address in the microphone, please?
Valerie Cooey, 39 Peachtree Road, Oakhurst.
Thank you very much. Ron, could you mark the packet B1 with tonight's date? And Jim, you have a report?
Yes, I do. Dated September 27th. Again, I'll summarize. What they have is property that's located entirely within a floodplain, and they want to replace the existing driveway and sidewalks and the walkway into the house. And they want to expand the driveway. The beginning of the driveway is narrower, and then it fans out and gets wider as it gets towards the house. The construction of the floodplain, I defer to Bill. From a planning standpoint, I don't have a major concern with it. And mainly, it's mostly reconstruction. As far as the width of the driveway goes, I don't think 23 feet is necessary. If you run a line from the corner of the fence that's around the pool out to the front property line, and particularly since they're replacing the entire driveway, they're removing it and replacing it, I see no reason why that can't go to a point that's 20 feet at the street line. And I know Bill is going to suggest that it just be 20 feet the entire length, which is another possibility too, since they are ripping everything out.
I didn't bring
Just
enough
wait,
pictures.
just wait.
Sorry.
You gotta finish the
Yes.
reports.
So basically, that's one thing you should look at, whether it should go to 23 feet or whether 20 feet is adequate, and whether that makes more sense.
Okay, Bill, your report, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a report dated September 29th. I'm in my 27th year. I don't think I've ever supported a driveway that's wider than 20 feet. So I'm not going to start now, because I see no reason for it, because it just is an extra impervious cover that really doesn't serve a function. The average parking stall in the commercial center is 9 feet wide, so a 20-foot driveway is more than enough to park 2 cars. Having said that, I don't have a big problem with the flood hazard area variance, because as long as they're not changing any elevation by way of fill, and they're not, because the site simply doesn't permit it, it's really flat. So to put a new driveway in, you're not gonna be filling the flood hazard area, so I don't have a problem with that, but I can't support a driveway wider than 20 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Already.
Okay, Mrs. Kieran, floor is yours.
Yeah, I,
Just have to make sure, please, make the microphone closer because
I
we're
don't
picking
have
up.
pictures for everyone, but I took a picture of just what it is that we're trying to do. I just want to go,
Okay, why don't you have Mr. Kirk mark it first, please?
I just wanted to go see how my husband drives over the curb in order to get his car in there. And then when we have our kids come.
Well, you gotta tell them, just, he's gonna mark it, and they'll pass it around, and then you can tell them.
Would you go back to the microphone, please?
You wanna know?
Yeah, that's a photo of my car and then my husband's van. And what happens is now he drives over the curb. I mean, he can come in on the angle and then come in where he is, or he drives over the curb because we have a narrow opening. And I just wanted to extend that in a line from the back of the house all the way down. Because when we have our kids come, or my neighbors, not neighbors, but family, we're always in the street. In the wintertime, it's somewhat of a problem when we're trying to put more than 2 cars in the driveway. So I figured since we had to get the variance to replace the sidewalk anyway, let's just make that a straight line and get rid of that little bit of curb and make that a curb opening.
Oh, here was my thinking on it. Your application read that you're gonna remove all of this, driveway and walk, and reconstruct it.
Yes.
Okay, so I can't see why the driveway can't get reconstructed at 20 feet, since you could get, your driveway as it is now doesn't work. I mean, it wouldn't work if there was no car in the driveway and her husband wanted to get into that extension to the right. A car just simply can't move like that. They can draw it, but it doesn't move like that. So the driveway doesn't work, and I understand exactly what she wants to do, and I don't have a problem with widening the curb cut,
Okay.
making that all but 20 feet. Is plenty to park two cars.
Which is where,
Well, I would
It's just
start.
about where it is right,
that's where it is
where it
right
would go
now,
anyway.
but we're just gonna
Just-
come straight
Just
down.
towards where I was out there Sunday,
Okay.
I met with Mrs. Cooey, and we scaled things off with a tape measure, and it's just about 20 feet at the curb if you extend that line straight from where the existing driveway is. What Bill, I think, is suggesting is that you just make the whole thing 20 feet, since they're ripping it all out. But that should be right. And I
Understand what they're
suggested,
saying?
Fine with
yeah.
me.
yeah,
Okay.
That would be a
yeah.
20-foot rectangle, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 20 foot
basically,
by
yes.
whatever it is from the sidewalk, top of the sidewalk to the home. That's no problem.
Yeah, and I suggested she take the picture and give it to you, so you could see exactly what's happening there.
Okay, but now it'll be 20 feet, so there won't be a variance for the driveway.
Well, it wouldn't be a variance for the driveway, right? Only the flood hazard area variance, because the driveway would be 20. Now, just so you know, because I don't want to forget the town has details for constructing the driveway, the apron site, and you need inspections for that stuff.
I have those,
Yeah, but just don't
Details
forget
that
to
they
call
want.
for your inspections, that's the town, because
right. I don't have, contractors yet.
curb cut's changing.
Okay,
I
but
was
you,
waiting for the
No,
variance,
it's
so,
not right now, it's not, it's like 12.
fine, but there's specifications you can get from town hall,
right,
and then you'll give it to whoever the contractor is.
sure.
So we're down to
If there's
construction of floodplain, and you're recommending,
I'm sorry.
20-foot driveway, 20-foot
Before we
curb
get
cut.
there, I'm confused.
okay.
I'm often confused. But the curb cut that you went out and you scaled is approximately 20 feet. I assume
it's
that's.
not.
It's
The
not,
curb
it's
cut
about
is not
12
20
feet right now.
Oh, it's 12 feet right
It's
now.
gonna
yeah.
go to 20, so she
Oh,
can
then
have
I'm
a
not
Yeah.
confused.
full driveway
Yeah.
and people can park without
no
driving
scale
over
on
the
this.
curb or the front lawn or whatever.
All right, so what I'm looking at here is like a 12-foot.
That's what
Yes,
it
that's
is.
correct.
And because otherwise, if that was 20 feet, then you'd lose the whole kick. All right, so. Okay, never mind.
Anybody else have any questions?
A quick question, is there a gate where we can't see where the van is pictured? Is there a gate beyond here?
In front of the van, there's the fence and then a gate, it goes into the back.
I just want to make sure that you have a surface to walk on.
Yeah, it's all,
So even if
that's,
we take it to 20 feet, you'll still be able to,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right, thank you.
Anybody else from the board have any questions or concerns? You want the public here to be heard? A motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion, close the public hearing?
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, someone like to move the application? I guess the only variance is left for construction of floodplain, and there's no need to note anything about the width of the
No.
driveway because it's conforming.
Be a finding of fact that she's gonna
Right.
withdraw her application for 23
Yeah,
feet.
the applicant has
and
agreed
she'll
to
make it
construct a
conforming.
20-foot, uniformly 20-foot wide driveway with curb cut, sidewalk improvements, et cetera.
Okay, the variance is only for construction of floodplain. Okay, someone offer, I'm sorry, Mr. Worrell, did you?
I'll offer a motion that we not to exceed 20 feet and the engineer's recommendation.
Okay, anybody else? Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Yes.
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 Yes? The motion's approved, and
Restriction in the
you
flood.
contact Ron in the morning, you can have it for publication.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next application is case number 5, Edward Aids, block 22, lot 29, 268 Roosevelt Avenue, Oakhurst, in an R4 zone. There's an application to construct a 9 by 14 foot shed with variance for a front yard setback of 10.1 feet where 30 feet is required. This is a corner lot. Okay, who's going to testify?
I guess me.
Raise your right hand, please.
Sure.
You swear the testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Name and address in the microphone, please.
Edward Adis, 268 Roosevelt Avenue.
Okay, thank you. And who would this be? Just,
Good evening, members of the board. I'm David Estes, attorney for the applicant.
I'm sorry, didn't realize that. Okay.
I was wearing a tie, so I thought that was a giveaway.
Every now and then somebody.
It's not.
Robert, mark the packet D1 with tonight's date, I'm sorry. And we'll start with Mr. Higgins' report, please.
Yeah, and again, I'll summarize. The applicant's proposing to install a 9-foot by 14-foot by 9-foot high shed in a front yard, on the front yard of Overbrook Avenue. So as a variance required is setback 10 feet, and the ordinance requires 30-foot front yard setback. The site's a very long, narrow site, and the way the site's developed, the board should be aware that the applicant had received a number of variances back, I think, in 2012 for the construction of the site the way it is. But the way the site is constructed, there's really no place you could put the shed but in a front yard. I made one suggestion, I may want to consider putting it behind the aluminum fence rather than in front of the aluminum fence for security purposes. But, and other than that, I had two comments. That the existing hedge along Overbrook Avenue, was approved to be a maximum of 6 feet high in 2012. It's higher than 6 feet now. It's got to be trimmed back to at least 6 feet, and it should be maintained at 6 feet. And then there's a section of the fence on the eastern side of the property that extends over the property line. The applicant has been made aware of that. He has agreed to relocate that fence onto his own property. That should be, if you approve the application, that should be a condition of approval. But quite frankly, it has to be done anyway, even if you weren't to approve the application.
And Bill, you have an engineering report?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to say anything different than Mr. Higgins didn't say. I have a report dated September 28th, and in 2012, there was a number of meetings over 10 months granting variances to develop the rear of this property the way it is now, which left no place to put a shed. To me, it's not a really good, it's not a hardship variance to put a shed in the front yard setback, so I have no engineering reason to support the matter.
Okay. Mr. Adis? Mr. Estes?
If I may, members of the board, this is actually a relatively simple variance. It's really one simple variance where, yes, he is in fact seeking to put the shed within 10 feet of the front yard setback. Frankly speaking, there really wasn't any other section when we looked at the plan where else we could put it that wouldn't require a variance. I know Mr. Fitzgerald's report with respect to the floodplain. And I note that it's not in the floodplain. We're really seeking a very, very small addition, which I suspect wouldn't really affect the floodplain, the flooding very much at all. I could.
What I had said was, it's not a flood hazard area variance. He's several hundred feet from the flooding on Overbrook. However, there is a substantial problem there also, to the point where FEMA's buying units that had funded building many years ago because they flood so often it's impractical to live there. Having said that, I'm saying the same thing essentially as I said on Mrs. Cabasso's application, where there's a flooding hazard or flood hazard area and substantial detriment to existing to single-family residential properties. I'm not supporting any impervious cover that either is over the limit, and in this case it probably isn't, I don't think that, or in a place that's not conforming, because I don't know how else to cure these problems. Again, that's an incurable situation with a culvert under the railroad. Having said that, while I'm looking at this, I don't know why the shed can't be turned 90 degrees and put right where the words pool equipment are. Which at least gets it maybe a 20 or 20, almost a 30-foot setback. What's required? Is a 30-foot required?
You're talking in the rear of the...
to the south side of the pool, between the hedgerow and where it says pool, pool equipment, back 30 feet, 90 degrees turn, it would be conforming. It's a non-issue.
Wouldn't it be too close to the side yard?
It's only got to be 5 feet, I thought.
Yeah, it's 5 feet.
Would you like to swear in the?
I did.
Yeah, I'm sworn.
Before we go further, Mr. Adis, can you address why the shed couldn't be put where the pool equipment is located?
Sure. The purpose of the shed is not to store pool equipment. The purpose of the shed is basically to have storage for recreational stuff, bicycles, balls, things like that, because I'm tired of carrying them up and down the stairs, and my kids have problems carrying them up and down the stairs because right now we're storing them in the basement. And to one of the gentleman's points earlier, why you couldn't just maybe for security to locate it inside the aluminum fence, same reason why I wouldn't want to put it back by the pool equipment, because I did think of that, but I just for safety, I do not want my kids going in and out of the pool area, and I don't want that gate opened that many times. You know, I like the gate closed, unless if we're swimming, we're out there, the gate's opened. If not, pool's locked, nobody goes in.
So, I guess, Bill, I have a similar question that I had on the previous one. Is there something short of moving the fence and, putting in swales and whatever, but something short of that could mitigate the flood issue, the water runoff issue, so we can give them the shed, but at the same time maybe mitigate that?
I don't know. I don't. I mean,
Nothing on this one?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Something can always be offered, I suppose. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how you make it work without more information. We don't have that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if council has any idea if there's already some existing water control that can maybe be enhanced.
There's no, to my knowledge, there's no existing stormwater control on the site.
Is the concern for the home itself that my home will become flooded?
No.
No.
The concern is that other people's homes are presently being flooded, and you can't put your extra impervious cover in a place where it conforms to the ordinance. So I don't have any engineering way of solving the flooding problem. There's not enough. I will tell you that when I worked here full-time in 1977, we were studying the same problem. The Corps has studied it 20 times. No one can solve the problem. So I'm taking a position from an engineering point of view that unless you can justify your impervious coverage, I can't support it from an engineering point of view. And you have to decide whether you want the variance for the structure in the front yard like that.
So just for council's benefit, in other words, you don't need a variance for the impervious or anything like that, but you are asking for a variance, and I guess what I would like to have to help to help support the application is maybe some other kind of mitigation of the water problem that exists in there generally that would make the putting the shed in a non-conforming location less onerous.
Good C2 variant.
Can I ask a question? Just from an engineering perspective, I'm curious. If it's raining
Right.
and water is falling down, and right now there's grass there, and
Mm.
it's hitting the grass, and the ground is absorbing it,
Right.
and I put a structure there, whatever it is, 8
Right.
foot, 9 foot, 10 foot structure, the water is going to hit the structure
Right,
and then fall to the sides.
right, and then
That-
run to the street.
That will still hit the grass that's still surrounding
But
it.
not in the place surrounding it, right, but then that grass is getting more water than it gets now, so without getting into a whole lot of stuff that your engineer should have provided.
Okay. I gotcha.
There's more runoff.
It's more concentrated
Exactly
water in
right.
one area. Okay.
Exactly right.
Now
Okay, so then
at
you
least
get
I
extra
understand.
runoff. Now, is every drop of it running off? No, but I mean, I don't.
So now, like say if you were to do it like we did with the earlier application, put a dry well from the downspouts of the house, then you would be taking more water than what is coming off of the shed and putting it directly into the ground, reducing the amount of runoff, and that could be a positive reason for the granting of the variance. You've got to have a positive reason for the granting of your variance, and then you got to show there's no negative impact. That could be a positive reason for the granting of the
I got it.
So-
That makes very.
So while the dry well was briefly discussed, I mean, we thought our impact was so minimal that it really,
Yeah, so if you do something that would substantially reduce the amount of runoff from the property, that's a positive reason for the granting of the variance.
You have roof drains. I mean, you have leaders coming down the house.
So actually, that's what I was thinking about. When I purchased the home, the one side of the property,
All right.
on the short side, opposite Overbrook, I don't think there's actually any leaders along that side of the house.
Are there any anywhere?
There are some that are actually carved from cedar wood. Believe it or not, I think they were the original ones that were put there.
Are
Kind
they
of
on
cool.
Roosevelt Avenue? From the front?
On what? Yeah, they're on the Roosevelt Avenue front. I think there is some on the Overbrook side as well. I think
Probably if you grabbed one of them and put it in a dry well, more than mitigate the coverage from the shed.
Okay. Is a dry well expensive?
I don't know. Your engineer got to design it, but they can be done fairly economically.
Oh man,
What?
because the sheds are only like
It's
$1,000.
probably the same as the shed.
that's why our initial thought about it was, the cost versus.
I understand, but you have to understand that the only reason you need to put it there is because you came in and planted the pool where it is. If the pool was forward, the shed could have been in the backyard totally conforming. This is all stuff that was planned out by this applicant.
Right, so, Mr.
Right.
Ayers, when we did plan this, I mean, this was 5 years ago, did you have any thought that you were gonna need this?
No.
I mean, we had tried several different variations on how to put the pool.
Right, and actually, at the time, there was a larger driveway and a garage that was probably about 3 times the size of the shed that we're looking to put up, and we took that down at the time to get the variance to put the pool in as it was. So we actually gave up a lot more storage at the time.
And you thought that you thought at that time that you would have enough with what you had, with the
Correct.
basement and so forth.
Correct.
And now what's happening? Your children are going up and down the stairs,
They're getting bigger.
and they're
And-
getting hurt going up and down the stairs with carrying bikes. and-
Yeah, it's just it's hard for them and my wife to take it up and down and up and down. Bigger kids, bigger problems.
Mr. Hayes, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
On the plan where next to the house, it says concrete pad, I guess.
Yep.
What is that?
That's the driveway.
And what's the size of that?
It is 20 feet wide. It's enough just to fit 2 cars.
Okay, it's parking space. It's not leading to anything, right?
Correct. No.
Okay. Okay, so let's get back to the dry well. Are you willing to put in a dry well to satisfy the positive criteria for granting a variance?
Now, that's the question.
What do you got between the pool and the aluminum fence in your front yard, you know?
Between the pool and the aluminum
Then you
fence,
got
just
is that just lawn?
just yeah, grass,
Just grass.
just grass.
You put a trench drain in there. Take the downspout. Put little gutters on the shed and put the shed water in the ground in a little trench in the lawn. Your engineer could design something to be pretty economical.
If you say it's economical, I'm good with that. A trench, is that basically just something that they put
Yeah, you put in a
along?
piece of perforated pipe and some stone, and wrap it with fabric. It's pretty cheap, pretty easy. You put grass over top, nobody will know it's there.
Beautiful.
Your engineer got to design it, not me.
Okay.
What would
Okay,
be,
it's not my
what
job.
are you asking?
You just did.
I know.
I already have the schematic in my head
Yeah,
going.
there you go.
I could do this myself at Home Depot.
Almost, but I need him to sign it too.
A trench. A
All right, so
trench drain
Right.
for
Yeah.
runoff from shed.
Yes, only because, I mean, we talked about the concept of the house, but Jim pulled down the street view and we see where the leaders are. And it's just going to, it's a beautiful looking place. The lot looks perfect. I mean, it's well maintained. We don't want to tear it all up for something. So if we can get a trench drain in the lawn, it'll be fine.
all right, so
As long as
you,
you're okay with the other variances, I'm not.
yeah. So you're willing to put in a trench drain as Mr. Fitzgerald suggested?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll need
I
a.
have no choice. I think that
So,
was
well,
very well said.
The legal point.
You'll need plans to submit to for Mr. Fitzgerald's approval.
Mr. Simon can design them, and it's quick. He's done it a million times.
Okay.
Bill, you comfortable if this is just subject to your
Yeah, if
approval of it? You
people
don't
are
want
com- if the board is if the board is comfortable with the variance and the placement of the shed and the size and everything, I don't. I'm happy that the water's getting mitigated at least to as much additional as the situation is creating.
And then the shed is screened by 6 feet of shrubbery, right? From the
That's
street?
already.
From the
correct.
street, yeah, that's
It's
already in
screened,
place.
and Mr. Adis has already indicated that he'll make sure that the shrubbery is cut down to the.
It's only 9 feet high, so 6 foot of shrubs will do most of it.
That's,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah. I mean,
It's really already screened,
What-
it's
what-
pretty private.
It's a gable roof, peak roof.
I haven't picked it yet.
Okay.
What do you
Uh,
You
prefer?
just showed me a picture, and
But, well, I just brought this as a sample so you guys have an idea of what we're thinking.
but you're not going to do a flat roof on a shed.
No, probably
So you'd have
not.
a gable roof so that the gable would run the long length of the roof, which is from north to south probably, just like the pictures you're showing me. You could do it. I'm just thinking in terms of what you see from the street. So
What's it gonna look like, color-wise? All that stuff. You guys wanna know? You care?
Well, I'd love it to match the house, which is white
There you go.
vinyl.
With that,
I mean,
that's a winner.
We would love it to match the house
The
too.
roof
yeah,
shingles.
we're on the same page.
Roof shingles and the siding match the house.
Very much like that. Yeah. I mean, I have to
What
do my
color?
research to see what's
Yeah, what-
available, how much customization could
What
be done.
color is the house?
Tell you what,
Basically, the roof shingles and siding match basically in color.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna get, you may not put aluminum siding on it, I know it's on your house. But
Right.
color and style.
Yeah, that sounds
As Mr.
reasonable.
Fitzgerald noted, the property is really very well
You
maintained.
know, but he's
We're
not
looking
gonna, I
to.
don't know what he's got on his, he's gonna get a prefab thing, he's not gonna be able to get it matching. Matching the color.
It'll be-
Okay,
Presumably it's close.
we're all agreed. We're all agreed with the location, and you're going to put a trench drain subject to Mr. Fitzgerald's approvals. The color is going to match the house, both the roof and the side. And
Are we talking about an angle that you want it to be with the roof? I didn't understand that.
No. It's not. It's going to be shallow.
okay, anybody else have?
Sorry, I just have a question.
Sure.
We submitted for a 126
9 by 14.
a 9 by 14 shed. While I was looking at this, I noticed that they come in they don't come that size because we wanted to go a little bit higher than the maximum allowable, which I think is 150 square feet, just from a shed perspective. If would it be okay instead of a 9 by 14 if I put like a 10 by 12?
Yeah, it's
10 by
120.
12 is smaller.
So yeah, it is smaller.
The question is
Well-
if the size, if the size is different than 9 by 14, but it's.
Right, the
As
extra
long as,
square
like I say,
footage.
as long as the
What's
square
9 by
footage is
14?
smaller.
126, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Over
10 by- so
126
not exceeding 126 square feet.
Well,
Okay.
Rectangle
That would be
not
okay.
exceeding 126 square feet.
but what do you ask for? What's 9 by
Six.
14?
126.
Square feet.
And
So
Or
if
10 by 12 is 120, but rather than pin them down,
Got it.
not a rectangular shed not exceeding 126 square feet, and I would think that you would want it not less than 8 feet minimum dimension. That way you're not getting a 6 by 35 foot hall, you know.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that either.
No, I know, I understand.
I don't want it to look ridiculous.
Okay,
That is funny though.
all right. Anybody else have any comments or questions or concerns? Anyone from the public here to be heard? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close public hearing.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes, someone want to offer a motion of approval?
I'll offer it as described a minute ago by Chair Brown.
Is there a second? Mrs. Bonnie, call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion's approved, subject to
Approval.
resubmitting plans that Bill approves and publication.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
It's a wrap, guys. Meeting is adjourned.
With it.